We tend to view dominant market leaders as permanent fixtures of the economy, but history shows us that when the technology beneath a market shifts, even the most entrenched umpires can crumble with shocking speed. At their respective peaks, companies like Nokia, Kodak, Yahoo, and BlackBerry commanded massive valuations, controlling the lion's share of entire global industries. Their eventual collapse did not result from a lack of engineering talent or missing R&D budgets. These giants fell because they made a structural, strategic defection against the shifting realities of their own markets. Former Netflix VP of Product Gibson Biddle formalized a blueprint for surviving these shifts. He evaluates a product's right to exist using 3 pillars. The first is delight. Your product must solve a high-friction problem in a way that generates unique, undeniable utility for the customer. The final pillar is margin enhancing. A business cannot run on venture capital and hype indefinitely. The product must generate real cash flow to sustain operations. But the crucial linchpin is the center pillar, hard to copy. Without a structural competitive moat, your margins will be competed away, and your ability to delight customers will inevitably be matched by rivals. Long-term survival depends on the proactive cannibalization of legacy margins and the deliberate engineering of structural defenses that cannot be easily replicated. There is no clearer example of an incumbent paralyzed by its own profitability than Kodak. Kodak actually invented the core technology that would eventually destroy its primary business. In 1975, a Kodak engineer developed the first digital camera prototype, but leadership actively suppressed the device. When the market began to turn, Kodak's response was to launch hybrid products, like the Advantix Preview, which were specifically optimized to end in physical photo prints. They actively prioritized defending their lucrative chemical film manufacturing margins. Instead of fully committing to the digital transition, leadership diverted billions into a misaligned diversification strategy, acquiring the pharmaceutical company Sterling Drug. This drained resources away from the investments required to compete in the new digital reality. Compare that paralysis to Netflix. In its early years, Netflix achieved massive scale through physical distribution, dominating the market with its red DVD by mail envelopes. Yet in 2007, Netflix aggressively launched its streaming service. They recognized that expanding high-speed internet would soon commoditize physical media, so they deliberately chose to dismantle their own profitable DVD infrastructure. This pivot allowed them to engineer a powerful moat known as scale economies. By shifting from licensing third-party shows to producing vast amounts of original programming, they turned content into a fixed cost. The mathematics of this advantage are brutal for competitors. $100 million investment in a single show creates an unsustainable $100 cost per user for a streaming startup with 1 million subscribers. But amortized across Netflix's massive global user base, that exact same investment costs them mere cents per subscriber. The strategic rule is strict. You must cannibalize your current product lines and sacrifice legacy margins before market forces do it for you. In the early 2000s, the mobile phone market was ruled by undisputed hardware giants, but this dominance bred a lethal system inertia. BlackBerry, deeply entrenched in enterprise security, suffered from a fatal blindness to the bottom-up consumerization of software. They remained entirely committed to physical keyboards and dismissed the rising threat of touchscreen devices. Nokia faced a similar internal breakdown. Deep organizational silos and a culture where middle management filtered out negative technical signals led the company to cling to its aging Symbian operating system far too long. To combat this exact type of internal bias, Amazon relies on a rigorous validation mechanism known as the working backwards process. Before a single line of code is written or any engineering resources are approved, an Amazon product team must write a complete 6-page mock press release and FAQ document for the proposed product. By drafting the public announcement first, the team is forced to define the exact problem they are solving. If the press release lacks a compelling reason for a customer to buy the product, it isn't worth building. The attached FAQ section is then used by leadership to ruthlessly interrogate the mechanics of the idea. They ask hard questions about economic viability, capital liabilities, and technical risks, while it is still just an idea on paper. Amazon Web Services, which reconfigured volatile internal infrastructure costs into a scalable horizontal platform, was born directly from this validation loop. Relying solely on legacy internal skills leads to stagnation. Continuous, rigorous validation of the actual customer experience is the only way to de-risk execution. You cannot rebrand a legacy business model and expect it to survive. WeWork serves as a modern masterclass in hype-fueled valuation, convincing investors to value a commercial real estate subleasing firm as if it were a high-growth technology platform. Beneath the visionary rhetoric, the company's unit economics were critically flawed. WeWork locked itself into massive long-term lease obligations with landlords, while offering flexible short-term leases to its tenants. This structural mismatch meant that the moment economic demand cooled, their short-term revenue evaporated, leaving them fully exposed to billions in long-term liabilities and massive cash burn. A true technology platform achieves dominance by structurally embedding itself into the operations of its users. Consider Stripe. Prior to Stripe, setting up online payments required weeks of complex bank negotiations and brittle integrations. Stripe reduced that entire process down to a frictionless API, requiring just 7 lines of code. By targeting developers directly and launching products like Stripe Connect, they embedded themselves into multi-sided marketplaces like Shopify and Lyft. Stripe became the invisible financial engine routing payments across the internet economy. Figma achieved a similar level of structural embedment in the design market. They built a browser-first WebGL technical architecture specifically designed to bypass the friction of legacy desktop software. Offering a generous free tier, Figma utilized a bottom-up, product-led growth model. Individual designers adopted the tool organically, completely bypassing traditional enterprise sales cycles. But Figma's true strategic weapon was multiplayer collaboration. They turned design into a real-time hub where product managers, developers, and marketers could work simultaneously. This created powerful procedural switching costs. Once an entire organization adopts this collaborative workflow, the operational pain of reverting back to a single-player desktop tool becomes insurmountable. Technology branding cannot mask broken unit economics. True market defensibility requires embedding your product so deeply into a customer's operational procedures that leaving you becomes a logistical nightmare. Sustained strategic success in any era is never achieved through simple feature parity or aggressive marketing campaigns. It requires the discipline to rigorously validate the real customer problem, the courage to cannibalize your own legacy margins, and the foresight to engineer structural, mathematical moats, like scale economies and switching costs. These historical frameworks map perfectly onto the rapid platform shifts happening right now in artificial intelligence and compute infrastructure. We see it in how companies like OpenAI are utilizing aggregation theory, gathering massive amounts of abundant web content, and using heavy compute to control user demand at the conversational layer. We see it at the hardware layer, where NVIDIA has established a cornered resource moat. Their specific pool of specialized engineering talent and deeply integrated silicon infrastructure are largely unavailable to competitors through standard market recruitment. To navigate these shifts, modern product leaders must adopt the product kata. They need to start with the PR FAQ, proving on paper that their proposed solution actually addresses a high-friction reality for the end user. They have to map their technical transitions directly to these user outcomes, even if it means actively dismantling the cash cow that brought them their initial success. A product strategy is only as strong as a leader's willingness to confront the brutal realities of their own unit economics. Because if you don't dismantle your empire to build the next one, the market will gladly do it for you.